You ever seen that commercial where the guy, he's about to shave and he goes, I needed that. That's like that guy, I need this. Well, haven't we been through something?
Yeah.
And we're all hoping it's one of those 500-year things. My wife and I were singing one of the verses of Amazing Grace. And, how does it go? Let's see. Through many dangers, storms and snares, or whatever I have already come.
Yeah.
'Tis grace has brought me safe as far. Grace will lead me home. We rewrote it through COVID, and Helene, we've already come. Hurry up and bring us home. Anyway, I hope everyone is doing okay, and I'm glad y'all met. Was it last Sunday, wasn't it? I had the meeting last 2 Sundays ago, and gathered and supported each other for that. So I drove down from Asheville. I usually get off right outside of Hendersonville and go down to Saluda and then Tryon. The road from Hendersonville to Saluda was open, but I mean there were you could tell where they'd cleaned up mudslides every so many feet. I'd never seen so many mudslides, and then part of the road is gone. It's just a one way. And then when I got to Saluda, I asked someone, and they said the road was closed from Saluda on down through to Tryon on 176. So I had to get back on the interstate.
You want to use your mic?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Andy. So I'm going to repeat all that again. Does anyone have any announcements that they need to make this morning? Anyone?
I have a couple.
Okay.
All right, I think we have the women's group finally finalized, if that's a phrase we can use. It's going to be on the second Wednesday of every month at 2 o'clock at the Landrum Library. And we are working through the power of myth. So we've done the first 2 sessions of that. So the November session will be the 3rd episode of that. You can find it on YouTube, just Google or just search Power of Myth, and it'll come up, so you can do episode 3, do episodes 1 and 2 to be ready for episode 3. And we are sponsoring a bereavement workshop that will be held on November 13th at 11 a.m. at the Agape Hospice House in Landrum. That's on Fairwinds Drive. So if you have experienced some bereavement issues and you would like to work through that, we will have that workshop available, and Robin will be our facilitator for that workshop. So we thank her for volunteering her time to do that. Thank you, Robin. Oh, and just so you know, Ernie, I've been through 2 1,000-year floods. When we were in Columbia, there was a 1,000-year flood in 2015. So then we moved up here, and now we have another 1,000-year flood. So maybe it's us. Maybe we need to move. But according to my husband, we're never moving again.
Never.
Can't get away from it, can't you? Thank you. Any other announcements? Welcome, folks. Come in and make yourselves at home.
Thank you.
Any other announcements you want to add? Yes, Sally.
No, this isn't an announcement, but I was looking through our directory and I noticed that Nan Covert's address is Lake Lure. Does anyone know?
We tried.
We could try.
We tried.
That was my concern. I guess it should have been a concern, but.
Okay.
We've reached out to Nan several times, left messages, and we haven't heard back from her.
Oh, gosh, thank you.
If anyone does come across information about NAM, let Alyssa know, or Don, or someone know.
Yeah, I tried email and phone also.
Yes, we've been trying that. Okay, I believe that's it for announcements. Will you folks feel comfortable introducing yourselves? You've been here before, right?
Yes.
I Hi, I'm Joel.
Joel?
My son.
Okay, good to have you.
Just visiting, but,
Where did you come from, Joel?
Hendersonville.
Okay, you're not too far away. All right. It's good to have you with us this morning. So a string went into a bar and ordered a drink, and the bartender said, "We don't serve strings." So the string went home and frayed both its ends and tied itself in a knot. And went back, and the bartender said, "Weren't you that string that was just in here?" And he said, "No, I'm afraid not."
That hurt. That really hurt.
That one just got.
Okay. I can't think of anything else, so we'll get started here. Oh, sing a new song to the eternal. Shout praise, all earth, break into music and song. Praise the eternal with lyre and song. Let the sea and all within it thunder praise, the world and all its inhabitants. Let rivers clap their hands, let mountains sing in chorus, oh, sing a new song to the eternal. Okay, chalice lighting. All right, Sue's going to do
Good morning. The human race is challenged more than ever before to demonstrate our mastery, not over nature, but ourselves. These are from Rachel Carson. And then the second one is, those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength that will endure as long as life lasts. There is something infinitely healing in the repeated refrains of nature, the assurance that dawn comes after night and spring after winter.
Amen. Thank you, Sue. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. And we light this chalice for the harmony of peace.
Younger than kids keep growing tall. The earth below and the sky above, there's hope for all. If the moon still moves in blue sea, that rules the hearts of men, the world keeps turning brightly. Here we go again. The winter grass turns April green, and the rain begins to fall. The water flowing from the stream, there's hope for us. There's hope for you and me, my friend, with our backs against the wall. If there's water flowing from the stream, there's hope for one all. If a man still does the best he can, though no one cares, others rock their babes to sleep, say a little prayer. The old car starts, the windows close, way out in the fall. There's one good spark, the falling dark, there's hope for one all. There's hope for you and me, my friend, with our backs against the wall. If there's one good spark, the falling dark, there's hope for one all. Repeat the last two lines. There's hope for you and me, my friend, with our backs against the wall. If there's one good spark, the falling dark, there's hope for one and all.
Who wrote that song?
Dave Mallet?
The same guy that wrote Inch by Inch and wrote Roll by Road, that's, what's his name again?
Dave Mallet, and it's in Maine.
Okay. Join with me, please, to the work of this fellowship, which is leading to demonstrate love and action in our community. We dedicate our lives and these are our offerings. Thank you. Our reading is number 652. The author is William Ellery Channing, who's a big major figure in Unitarian Universalism. And this is 652. Now, if you would, hold that place, 652, hold that and turn to that source that we're going to be talking about this morning, and that's 7 pages in from the front of your handbook. It's not numbered, but if you count 7, you'll get to Unitarian Universalist Principles, and then down below that you'll get to the Living Tradition, the sources, which is what we've been doing. And today, our source is the Humanist teaching down there, you see. I won't ask you to raise your hand, but I figure some of you identify with humanism, either religious or secular humanism. Many Unitarian Universalists identify as humanists. So you might like this source. So it's the one that starts Humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. Now that's an intriguing idea, idolatries of the mind. What does that mean? Idolatries of the mind. And so now turn to this reading from Channing, number 652. The title is The Great End in Religious Instruction, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that may help us to begin to identify what might be idolatries of the mind. Is this microphone, is it on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's not on, so that's why you couldn't hear me. Sorry. So as we read this reading from Channing, Religious Instruction, I'm going to give you a few moments after that to just think about what idolatries of the mind might mean for you, and give you a chance to share that if you'd like to. But I found this reading very helpful when I was thinking about that phrase. The great end in religious instruction. The great end in religious instruction is not to stamp our minds upon the young, but to stir up their own.
Not to make them see with our eyes, but to look hardly instead with their own.
Not to give them a definite amount of knowledge, but to inspire a fervent love of truth.
Not to form an outward regularity, but to touch those strengths.
Not to bind them by ineradicable prejudices to our peculiar sect or particular notions.
But to prepare them for impartial, conscientious judgment of whatever subject may be offered to their decision.
Not to burden the memory, but to quicken and strengthen the power of thought.
Not to impose religion upon them in the form of arbitrary rules, but to awaken the conscience.
In a word, the great end is to awaken the soul, to excite and cherish spiritual life. So, let's just take a moment, and I'd like to hear if any of you have anything you'd like to share about that reading. In terms of the reading, but if you have anything to share in terms of that reading, in regard to idolatries of the mind, feel free to do that too. So, anyone have anything they want to share about that reading? Or whatever. Robin.
In The Power of Myth, Joseph Campbell talks about how, I'll just project it. Joseph Campbell talks about how years ago myths would work for a civilization. So one small civilization or tribe could have their own myth that worked for their society. And he said we're just too disconnected and too big today, so we have to have our own myths that give us our moral compass. And it's important to remember that you can't tell somebody else that you have to follow their myth or else.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Idolatries of the mind. Of that might meter that reading. Jean. Yeah.
The one thing when it spoke about our children, I can remember one of the quotes that I always used when our girls were growing up, that as a parent, it is our responsibility to give them roots and then to give them wings to fly in their own direction. And to not, to me, that means let them know your past, let them know your honesty and your truths, but then to give them freedom to find their own path. And that is spiritually in every which way that we can.
Thank you. Yeah. So you give them a foundation, but then you let them, you're free to even question the foundation, maybe.
Exactly.
Okay. Back in the back, I'm sorry, Nate.
For me, I have 3 boys, and I look at it as being somewhat of a power example, but no attempt to guide them. Just let them have their own wings and fly.
And we know you've been here, but tell us who you are again.
Yes. You reminded me of freedom. I wish I always had the freedom to be able to listen to someone that doesn't agree with So that would free my mind to hear things that I might actually think about,
Yeah.
rather than my own thoughts.
Freedom to listen to others, yeah. Joy.
I wrote in my, on this week refer during our Bible, The Power of Myth. When I look back 40 years ago when I was teaching 9-year-olds and we were doing, 2 other teachers, and these were 9 and 10-year-olds, and we were doing a unit in mythology. And we got credibility and no pushback because of Star Wars and the series. So then there was no question. And now I look back on this thinking, I wonder how many teachers in 3rd and 4th grade would be able to introduce mythology in a public school to the kids. But because of all the movies that had come out, this was way before Harry Potter, which was so controversial. And it was a wonder. I think of the kids now and what they are thinking. I'm hoping they remember that we did the unit in mythology, and it was just so much fun, and being able to correlate it to the Star Wars series and Zeus, and dressing up like the characters and having pomegranates and everything. So it was really a fun experience, and I think of the kids that we had influenced, and we hope they think back on that. And maybe after a while it does click with some of them. So.
Andy and Sarah. Derek, did you have your hand up? No, I guess you didn't.
Idolatry hit me hard when I was in 2nd grade, attending a Catholic school. And they spent the whole year teaching us how sinful we were and how it was going to be all but impossible to get over that sin. And it took me probably another 10 years to get over that and get through that. And it's still something I think of when I think of people telling us what we must believe and how good or how bad it is for us.
Yes. Sally, and then we better wrap it up. We'll be here till lunch.
I'm talking about what's happening today, and to me it's so sad to see, both in mind and spirit, what's happening to so many people who believe what their idols may be telling them.
Thank you, thank you. You know, it's to me, when you think about it, it's really astounding that anybody could believe that every mind thinks alike. They all think alike. I mean, whoever came up with such an idea that, you know, you can enforce a certain belief and make everybody believe it. And this absolute delusion that if everybody on the planet just believed in the existence of God, we'd live in peace and harmony. Read the Bible. The 11 tribes of Israel tried their best to totally decimate the tribe of Benjamin. These are people who believe in monotheistic God. Or if everybody in the world just confessed and Jesus Christ is their Lord and Savior, we'd live in peace and harmony. I mean, think about that. It's not happened. So, I mean, this notion that several of you brought up mind, that if we all just thought just alike, then the world would live in peace and harmony. And that's just never going to happen. It's not. We all think differently because we all have different experiences in life. And what we need to try to do is somehow rise above any kind of ideology that says we need to think alike, and if we don't, then, you know, we'll do like Mark Twain said, we'll cut our brother's throat if this theology isn't straight. So somehow we've got to evolve, as Martin Luther King said. We've really got to evolve. And one of the ways we evolve is to rise above this notion that we're all going to think alike. We're going to think differently. And Unitarian Universalists, I think, well, I don't think, I know are open to diversity. And if you read these sources, you realize that there is some, if you go back to these sources that we all draw from, you see that they're not, that there may be some differences, you know. We just read the one today is humanism and science. Well, the one above that is Christian and Jewish. So people who identify as Christian and Jewish, I mean, they find that as a source, and that's part of our diversity, because we try to rise above any kind of dogmatic ideology. And when people say, well, what unites us? Well, if you turn back again to those sources, what unites us really are these two principles that guide us. And I'm going to read them to you so you don't have to look at them unless you want to. Acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Acceptance of one another. I accept you even though you may not agree with me or believe in what I believe. I accept you. And that acceptance is a step above tolerance. You know, this idea, well, I'll tolerate you because, you know, I don't believe what you believe, but I'll tolerate it. Well, let's get beyond toleration to this place of acceptance. And then below that, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. You know, when I read those principles, the first time I read those principles, I was a United Methodist at that time, but when I read those principles, it just like, this is where I need to be. This is where I want to be. I don't want to be in I want to be in a situation that says everybody has to be Methodist or think like a Methodist. But anyway, but the beauty of all of this to me is the last line on that page, which says, we are grateful for the religious pluralism. We're grateful for it, which enriches and ennobles our faith. I mean, if you can get to that place in your psyche and in your consciousness, that instead of being intolerant of another's belief or wanting to persecute them, if you can rise above that, transcend that to a place where you're grateful for them, and that even though I think kind of what you were saying about listening, that freedom to listen to another, even though I may not believe in what they believe in, I'm the one who's liberated because I can listen without feeling like I need to pound them for something. To me, that's what unites us, even in our diversity. What unites us is that acceptance and that cherishing that diversity. The opposite of faith is not doubt. The opposite of faith is certainty. If I'm certain, I don't need faith. If I have some conviction, I don't need faith. Okay, enough said about that. I'm going to just say some general things about science. I want to show you a mythical image from ancient Greece. And does anyone know what that is? Athena, born out of the head of Zeus. Now that mythology occurred about the same time as Buddhism, enlightenment of the mind. Very reminiscent of the verse in the Gospel of John, the people in darkness have seen a great light. Athena represents the light of the mind. Of course, this is mythical. And the problem in our culture today say, well, myth is a lie. Well, that's not a lie. That's just a mythical way of envisioning the power of thought and the power of mind. I mean, that's just a mythical, you don't use words, you're using images to express this birth of thought and mind and reason. And at this point in time, in Greek mythology, reasoning and thought is a prerogative of the gods and goddesses. That thoughts are revealed from the gods and goddesses. But as things evolve, then reasoning and the power of thought become a human prerogative. And that's when you find in ancient Greece the birth of philosophy and science. Because, and humanism, because we're believing now that this reasoning power, this power of the mind to reason is a human quality. And we can use it, and we can figure out what makes things work, you know. And we realize that we can explain things, and we don't really need gods and goddesses to explain them. We can explain them from our own reasoning, power of reasoning. We can understand why certain things in nature work the way they work. We can learn that thunder and lightning is not caused by some deity up in the sky, that there are natural conditions that cause these things to happen. So you have really the birth of philosophy, the birth of science in this part of Greek history. And of course, Athens is the birthplace, and Athens is named after Athena. And she's the goddess of reason and thought. When you think about it, you know, we live in our minds. We see the world through our minds. Our attitudes, our dispositions really inform how we see the world. But the other thing about ancient Greek is, you know, it was a land of sunshine. The word's Hyperborean. They had a lot of sunshine. They had a lot of bread to eat, and grapes to eat, and wine to drink. So they had a lot of leisure time, and they had a lot of time to sit around and philosophize and think, you know, and to use their heads to think, you know. And Socrates says, you know, they're always talking about justice, and Socrates comes along and says, what is that anyway? And they go, wow, we've never thought about that before. What is justice? So they start the birth of philosophy, they start philosophizing, and then they start, Aristotle starts delving into natural history and biology and psychology. And that's where you have all the logies, you know, like biology, logic, you know, that's where logic comes from. So there's a logical way of thinking about the world and things in it. So that's, you know, that period is known as the Greek Enlightenment. And there's the image. She's also the goddess of war, too, so I'm better not leave that out. Thinking, thought, mind, thinking. That, you know, thinking is an activity like chopping wood. And there's three kinds of people in the world. There's people who think, and people who think they think, and people who would die rather than think. But seriously, thinking is an activity. It burns energy. Your brain is a muscle. If you don't use it, it'll atrophy. So thinking takes energy. Now just to sit down and just regurgitate what somebody else has told you, or believe in whatever they told you to believe in, I mean, that's just kind of recycling. But to thinking, to really think. And you know, I'm gonna create an image of the thinker. You know, the image of the thinker, he's sitting and he's going like that. I'm going to have an image of him sitting with a cell phone. I'm serious. I'm serious. People are so glued to this outer stimulation, this stimulation from outside. They have to have it. Because we don't know how to think. And we don't take time to think. To sit and just ponder without some outer stimulation. We flew to California last year. The guy next to me YouTubed the whole flight from Asheville to California, YouTubing. Just scrolling through his YouTube. The whole flight! It's like, you put that thing down and think about something, you know? Just think about what's going on, you know? So, the mind, the power of the mind, the power of reason, the power of logic. So now the Greeks took off with that, and they ran with that. And, you know, the whole birth of philosophy and science is coming out of ancient Greece and just pouring into the Western world. And just like a great stream, you know, it's just pouring in. And all of a sudden, what happens? It hits a roadblock. And his name is St. Augustine. He says, your mind is corrupt. Your body is corrupt. You can't depend on your mind. You're a born sinner. You're born corrupt. Your mind is corrupt. And then so you get this roadblock. And you get this clash between the Hellenistic Greek mind and the Hebraic Judeo-Christian mind right there. And those two rivers that have fed Europe, they've never merged, and they're not merging. They still haven't merged today. Science has had to fight and fight and fight and fight against the authority of the church. You all know that. I don't need to tell you. You know, when Galileo invented the telescope, guess who refused to look through it? The bishops. We're not looking through that thing. If it proves that the earth is not the center of the universe, we're not going to look at it. Not only are we not going to look at it, we're going to put you under house arrest for that. So, you know, I don't need to tell you the long, long centuries and centuries and centuries of the struggle that science has had against the church. So we've got these two great streams that have fed European culture for ages, and they just haven't merged. They still emerge today. People who deny global warming, the science of global warming. But you know who those people are today, right? Who deny global warming? It's not the church. It's corporate America that's denying global warming and telling everybody it's a lie. Or think of the AIDS epidemic. Science is doing this work in AIDS, and over here these people are saying, well, it's God's punishment for homosexuality. So, I mean, again, it's nothing new to us that science and the church. You know, I hate to have to say this to you, but I will. Christianity is the only religion that I know of on the face of this earth that has a conflict with science. Buddhism is wide open to it. The Dalai Lama loves it. Taoism is open to it. And it's not, to me, if we go back to the teachings of Jesus, we don't find it. It's with these theologians who have come after it that wanted to turn everything into dogma. The dogma of original sin. The dogma of the Trinity. Servetus was burned at the stake for denying the Trinity, but he was also burned at the stake because he had a different view of the cosmos, and the church disapproved of that. So, this conflict between religion and science has I don't like to read stuff to you, but I will read this little excerpt from Lynn Yutang that I thought you might like. Science opens up to the modern Christian a newer and deeper sense of the mystery of the universe and a new conception of matter as a convertible term for energy. Now, he's saying that, you know, that modern science can open up for Christians a deeper sense of the mystery of the universe. And I think that's good. I like that. I mean, as you can be a Christian and still be open to the mystery of the universe. And think about matter as being just a form of energy, you know, captured in a body or something. And then he goes on to say, religion will have to retreat. And instead of saying so many things in the realm of natural science, as it used to do, simply acknowledge that they are none of religion's business. Much less should it allow the validity of spiritual experience to depend on totally irrelevant topics, like whether the age of man is 4,000 years or 1,000,000, or whether the earth is flat or round or shaped like a collapsible tea table, or borne aloft by Hindu elephants or Chinese turtles. Religion should and will confine itself to the moral realm, the realm of the moral conscience, which has a dignity of its own, comparable in every sense to the study of flowers, the fish, and the stars. Religion stands to gain immensely by being separated not only from cuisine, but also from geology and comparative anatomy. Religion must cease to dabble in astronomy and geology and persevere in preserver of ancient folkways. Let religion respectfully keep its mouth shut when teachers of biology are talking. And it will seem infinitely less silly and gain immeasurably in respect of mankind. You know, it seems like to me we know what the surface of Mars looks like. We know what's on the surface of Mars and Jupiter and most of the planets. We know we're learning every day what's in the depths of the oceans, but we are so ignorant when it comes to who we are and what we are and what we're capable of. You know, we know all that stuff out there, but who are we? You know, who am I? Who are we? What are we capable of? I just think to me, it's just almost impossible. It's unfathomable that people can still believe that the globe is not warming and that climate is not changing. I mean, I just don't know how you can go on denying that. Of course, what they deny is that it's caused by humans. But I mean, I think about that, I think, well, so what if it's not? Wouldn't we be better off if we assumed that it might be and we could do something to stop it? You know? You know, I think about the question, you know, will science save us? And that source, you know, we heed the results of science. We need to heed the results of science. I was thinking about how, you know, science has made so many advances, particularly in the realm of medicine. But I think that, you know, when you think about the results of science, we also need to think about things like the nuclear bomb. That's a result of science. Gas-powered engines, the results of science. Plastics, all these things that are results of science, but are not so great, you know. In fact, I mean, we might not have a problem of global warming if we didn't have gas-powered engines and stuff like that, and all that goes back, to me, that's the technological side of science, results of science. So I ask myself the question, will science save us? And, you know, I think not. I don't think science will save us. But what I do think will save us is our own power of creation, and our own power to create, and our own power to imagine, you know. So, you know, it's not just what we know that's going to save us, but to me it's what we are capable of imagining as possible that will save us. My grandson said to me the other day that, you know, he said, are we destroying ourselves? Are we, as the human, are we destroying ourselves? You know, my answer to him was, well, you know, that may be the case, I don't know, but I don't think it is. I think we can save ourselves and save our planet. But I think it's going to take more than just knowledge of what we already know. I think it's going to take the incredible power of the human spirit to imagine and create something different, you know. And it's going to start with each one of us, you know. Each person has that. I mean, where did all these great things come from? They came from people like you and me. And the power of imagination. So when I think about idolatries of the mind, I think about closing your mind to mystery, keeping mystery alive, you know. I always thought when I was in seminary, and even younger, I thought, one day I'm going to discover this absolute truth about everything. It's going to come to me like a revelation, and I'm going to be there, you know. I can say, I'm there now, I know it all. And I'm 74, pert near 75, it ain't happened yet. So what I'm trying to do now is just to realize that it's better to live with uncertainty, to me. It's better to live saying to yourself, I'm not certain. Because in that way you're keeping your mind open, you know. If you're not certain, you don't have any absolutes, you're not clung to any particular idea or ideology. You're always wondering, you know, you're always open to the mystery. And living with that tension is not easy because I think as humans we want to know, you know. Aristotle said that's what drives us humans. We want to know. But I think we have to get to a point where we say, well, we don't know, we can't know, we'll never know. You know? We'll never know. So there's always that tension that I know and I don't know. And even when it comes to yourself, I don't know who I am fully, you know. So I think that's the one way we can avoid those idolatries of the mind. Keep that mystery alive, keep that tension. Never be certain about anything. As I said earlier, the opposite of faith is not doubt, it's certainty. There's a wonderful reading on our hymnal, and I'll end by telling you to go read it. It's called Cherish Your Doubts. If you get a chance to read that in the hymnal, it's a wonderful reading. Okay, thank you.
The news is full of Carolina, whether it be hurricanes or politics. And we just want to pay a little respect to whichever Carolina you live in.
We got Carolina on the mind.
So sing with us if you like.
Carolina in my mind.
May the light around us guide our footsteps and hold us fast to the best and most righteous that we seek. May the darkness around us nurture our dreams and give us rest so that we may give ourselves to the work of the world. Let us seek to remember the wholeness of our lives, the weaving of light and shadow in this great and astonishing dance in which we move. Thank you. Final thoughts. Let's see, I've got a sermon I wanted to give you from last week. Anybody have anything they want to say or add or subtract, or can we give Bob the mic?
The mention of the cell phone was kind of an aside in Ernie's comments this morning, but it did get me thinking, that's one more, it seems to me, idol of the mind, as he was saying to us. And I want to tell you quickly of an event I had on an airplane many years ago, probably 20 years ago. On airplanes, I don't normally talk to people because I want to read my book and I want to be by myself, but sometimes I get into a conversation. And this one happened to be with a young man who wanted to talk, sitting beside me, and he identified himself as a cell phone developer or something. It's quite some time ago. And so we talked about cell phones. I expressed my, my doubts about the good or the bad, apparently, about those things. They were a newer phenomenon. And at one point, this guy again was a young man in the development of cell phones. And he held up his cell phone like this. And I thought right away of Hamlet holding up York's skull in the graveyard scene of that play, very dramatically.
Right.
And he said, "These things are evil." And he was a developer of them. And I didn't want to point out to him that his occupation seemed to be at odds with his judgment. So in any case, that's the end of the story. I just wanted to say that. I thought of that, Ernie, when you said that, about these things are evil, he said. And I think you kind of identified why, because they do take away our good judgment so many times. They have their uses, and I have one. Well, I had one, but I lost it. It's in England right now. I think that's as far as I know.
Yeah. It might be something worth bearing in mind that we're on the verge of a big revolution with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And it just seems to me that in line with Ernie's talk today, reason kind of discredited the mythical gods, Zeus and a whole bunch of them. And if what I've read comes to pass, that artificial intelligence will be 1 billion times more intelligent than the human mind in the next 25 years, that might be the next idol, and that we all look up to the great intelligence out there. That also might be what puts the old religions down once and for all, because we've got a new source that we can have faith in.
Thank you, Rob.
Faith in the
Yeah.
Lord would be good.
Story, Eisenhower walks in the room, and all the computers light up, and the guy says, ask him questions. He says, "Is there a God?" They go, "Now there is." Anybody else have anything? Joy has something back there she wants to.
What I'm finding interesting, all the media now with all of our Helene and the storm that came before, the tropical storm that didn't have a name to it that brought so much. We're not hearing that God is punishing us. We have not heard that. What do we hear? Mother Nature. And it's like, now it's the female. It all goes back back to the theme, so Jerry has had to hear this all the time. When I remember as a third grader, when I first entered a parochial school, I had gone to public school, and I happened to say Mother Nature. Well, it was a beautiful day, and I said, oh, my Mother Nature has given us a beautiful day, and the nun just,
I'll try to make this quick. I brought this topic up to this congregation in prior years. You mentioned that Christianity has a conflict with science. I think I heard that right.
Yeah.
And I invite the congregation to look back on a few years ago, the Pope, when he was recently seated, issued an encyclical called Laudato Si, where he was describing that God had given humans dominion over the earth, but to shepherd it, to protect it, to guard it. And that this is sometimes called the environmental encyclical. So this is where the Pope, whether he is, quote, Christianity or not, I don't personify, he was embracing the concepts of science. We're not doing a very good job, and science is showing us that we're messing up, and we better get our act together.
Yeah. And I think a lot has to do, I mean, Einstein's entry into religion was mystery. You know, he was a great scientist, you all know that, but mystery was his way in. And when I say Christian, I'm glad you said that, because I don't think that's necessarily the case, that if you're a Christian, you're anti-scientist. I don't think that, and if I sounded that way, I didn't mean to. So, I mean, there are a lot of good Christians out there trying hard to take care of the environment, and I don't want to ever come across bigoted about that. But anyway, it's a certain brand of Christianity. Jay, we better wrap it up, because the ham is home in the oven cooking.
I want to say something about what you spoke about science and what is likely to come. Another part of my life, I was making regular visits to Oak Ridge National Lab, and I had the chance to meet Ray Kurzweil. If you ever look him up and see what his background is and what he sees coming, which is singularity of everything. And when I was at Oak Ridge, they were pointing out a huge, huge building that is all computers, and they said, we are doing stuff in terabytes. I got terabytes on my phone now. So it's happening very, very fast. And it's all coming together, and I don't know how we all address the big change that is coming. It's beyond any of us to fully understand the technology that's taking place in the next 25 years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Enjoy this beautiful day.